The sliding door whispered shut behind Rowan eyes, sealing the hum of the corridor outside. His apartment at 742C greeted him with its usual precision lights fading on in sequence, air filters breathing sterile rhythm, everything arranged as it always was. He set his worn satchel by the console, expecting silence. Instead, a faint sound of scrape of metal against ceramic made him freeze mid-step. The sound came again, rhythmic, small. Someone was in his kitchen. Rowan's pulse rose before his mind caught up. The air smelled wrong, warmer, faintly sweet, like heat-steamed sugar. He moved forward slowly, body remembering habits from his medic days. Peep low, make no sudden noise, assess before acting. The kitchen light glowed through the doorway, soft and gold. Steam drifted above the counter. Then he saw her. A small figure stood barefoot near the stove, one of his bowls in hand. Her clothes hung in torn shreds, human fabric soaked through, collar ripped. Violet skin shimmered faintly under the light, the hue shifting like dusk water. Long white hair clung to her cheeks, plastered by rain. She turned when she sensed him and froze, spoon trembling. For a breath, neither moved. Her wide, luminous eyes reflected him like liquid glass. Rowan took in every detail, the tremor in her fingers, the way her ribs pressed through the soaked fabric, the wild look of someone who had been hungry too long. I'm sorry, she stammered, the words uneven but clear. I'll leave. I didn't mean. The spoon clattered onto the tiles. Rowan didn't draw his pulse pistol, though the old reflex twitched in his wrist where a holster once hung. Don't move, he said quietly. Who are you? Her voice was barely audible. Nia, I was just hungry. The accent was Ellery Old Colony, soft vowels. Impossible, he thought. The registry scans every street. No one crosses into the upper decks without a biometric tag. And yet here she stood, dripping rainwater onto his spotless floor, an untagged alien girl in the most surveilled city in the Orion Belt. You got through the checkpoints? He asked. She shook her head quickly. I came through the ducts. The cleaning unit jammed your door open. I only wanted food. Rowan's training screamed. Report, isolate, contain. He should have called enforcement the second he saw her. The system rewarded obedience. But her hands trembled with cold. Her pupils dilated in pain. He could see dehydration in her lips, a faint discoloration of malnutrition at her knuckles. Field diagnosis: 3 days without real food, exposure to acid rain. He exhaled through his nose. Sit down, he said. She blinked in confusion. I said sit. She hesitated, then obeyed, curling onto the stool like a ghost afraid of light. Rowan turned off the stove, poured what was left of the porridge into 2 bowls, and set one in front of her. Eat, he said simply. She stared at the bowl, then at him, unsure if it was a trick. If I wanted to call enforcement, you'd already hear the drones, he added. That seemed to convince her. She ate fast, too fast. He watched, noting every swallow, the desperate hunger of someone who hadn't eaten in days. When the bowl was empty, she whispered, You're not going to report me? Rowan leaned against the counter, arms folded. The registry code burned in his head. Unauthorized species contact, Section 12. Mandatory flag. But he remembered the refugee corridors after the Sarane riots, the smell of burned plastic and disinfectant, the cries of evacuees waiting for clearance that never came. No, he said at last. Not tonight. She looked up, startled. Why? Because you'll die out there, he said, tone flat but steady. Her throat worked, as if swallowing a sob. You don't even know me. I don't need to, he replied. He turned to the counter, picked up his wristband, and opened the system panel. Her biometric imprint glowed faintly in the air, A red trace in the apartment log, tagged by the entry sensor. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Rowan hesitated. He could wipe it with one command, or he could restore it and walk away clean. His finger hovered over the icon. The air between them hung heavy. Nia whispered, "If you report me, they'll send me to the labs. They don't ask questions there." Rowan's jaw clenched. He pressed delete. The trace dissolved, leaving only blank light. A small gasp escaped her lips. It didn't happen," he said, shutting the panel. "You'll stay here tonight." "Why?" she asked again, disbelief edging her voice. "Because procedure doesn't keep people alive," he said. "Sleep on the couch. Lock the door." She stood slowly, still trembling, clutching the edge of the counter for balance. The lights dimmed automatically as he walked away, but her reflection lingered in the glass wall, small, soaked, real. For the first time in years, the clean geometry of his apartment felt different, as if the air itself had learned to breathe. Rowan woke before the city lights shifted from violet to white, his body tuned to old field rhythms that never faded. For a moment, he forgot there was anyone else in the room. The silence felt different, thicker somehow, like the apartment had absorbed the sound of her breathing overnight. He turned toward the couch. Nia was still there, curled under the blanket he'd left, the color of her skin softened by sleep. The tension that had tightened her jaw yesterday was gone, replaced by something fragile and peaceful. He watched the faint rise and fall of her chest, and wondered what in the hell he had done. Harboring an unregistered alien was treason under city law. If a sweep drone passed by the building's lower deck vents, if his registry file flagged one anomaly, he'd be finished career, housing, everything. He rubbed a hand over his face and moved to the kitchen, letting the smell of boiling coffee mask the sound of his nerves. The air recycler hummed. When the machine hissed its final note, Nia stirred, blinking against the light. The blanket slid from her shoulders. For a heartbeat, she looked like she was about to bolt. Rowan spoke first, voice calm. "You're still safe." She sat up slowly, hair a pale halo around her face. "I thought maybe." She hesitated. "You'd changed your mind." "I thought about it," he said honestly. He poured 2 cups, the dark liquid steaming between them. "But I didn't." She stared at the mug he offered, then took it, wrapping both hands around it like something sacred. "You deleted the scan," she said quietly. "How do you know?" "I lived under the atrium nets for months," she replied, sipping carefully. "If you hadn't, enforcement would have been here by dawn." Her tone was matter of fact, not accusatory. She looked at him over the rim of the cup. "You risked your record for me." "I risked a quiet morning," he said. The sarcasm didn't land. Her eyes were too sharp, too old for her face. He leaned on the counter. "Those implants in your arms, they're failing. You're trembling because of temperature loss." She blinked. "You can tell that?" "Old habit," he said. "Field medic. I can recalibrate them? Off-grid." She looked away. "If you touch them, your ID will register my frequency." "Not if I do it manually." "You'd risk that?" "You're asking the same question twice." The corner of her mouth twitched, the closest thing to a smile since she arrived. He took a small med kit from a drawer, the metal latches still etched with a faded insignia Terran field cores. She stared at it, then at him. "You used to be military." "Used to," he said, scanning her implant with a silent pulse of light. The reading came back red, unstable. "You were close to a thermal crash." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I came up." The vents froze. "Then I guess it's lucky my cleaning bot jammed," he said. She gave a small, surprised laugh, and for the first time, the sound didn't feel out of place in his kitchen. He adjusted the calibration dial, hands steady. The implant hummed, light shifting from red to amber. She winced once, then sighed as the warmth returned to her veins. Better? Yes, she murmured. It's been months since I felt even heat. You'll keep feeling it if you stay inside. Her expression flickered with uncertainty. You really mean to keep me here? Until we figure something out. You talk like there's a plan. There will be, he said. For now, eat. He placed a plate of reheated porridge and a line of lane fruit syrup in front of her. She hesitated. I can work, she offered. Clean, fix things. You're not my employee. Then what am I? He met her eyes. A guest. The word seemed to strike her harder than it should have. She ate in silence for a while, each movement careful, deliberate. Outside, Irispan shifted through its moaning cycle, the glow from the upper decks filtering down like pale gold rain. When she finished, she set the bowl aside and whispered, "They'll be looking for me." The rollback lists every performer who lost sponsorship, and you were one of them. I spoke against the contracts, she said quietly. We danced for trade signatures, for men who decided what we were worth. They called me sympathizer. The sponsors cut our rations, housing, everything. Her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from memory. Rowan didn't interrupt. When she stopped, he asked softly, "What happens if they find you?" They don't ask questions. The labs need bodies with working implants. He stared into his coffee. You've seen that? No, she said. But I've heard enough screams from below. Silence lingered, heavy but honest. Then she lifted her head. Why are you helping me? Because I've seen what happens when I don't, he said, the words leaving his mouth before he could stop them. She studied him again, as if trying to measure the cost of his choice. The city outside thrummed with distant engines, a mechanical heartbeat counting down the minutes until discovery. Rowan stood, checked the window sensors, and turned back to her. If a patrol sweep hits this level, the scanner will trigger. There's a heat-shielded alcove by the maintenance shaft. If you hear an alarm, hide there. Don't make a sound. And you? I'll talk them down. You think you can? I used to talk people through dying. Bureaucrats are easier. That earned a ghost of a smile. The moment held, brief but real. Then she said softly, You're not what I expected. Neither are you. He returned to his chair, the faint hum of the city filling the silence between them. For the first time in years, the numbers running across his audit pad didn't hold his attention. Across from him sat a living contradiction, a mistake the system would rather erase. And yet she was here, in his kitchen, breathing, real. Something inside him shifted, quiet but irreversible, as if a line he'd drawn long ago had already been crossed. Rain fell like thin silver threads over Irispan's glass canopy, distorting the city lights into soft ribbons of color. Rowan stood by the window, wristband casting a faint blue glow across his palm. He'd been up half the night running system diagnostics on his apartment's registry feed, erasing every stray trace that could tie to an unregistered occupant. Every keystroke carried the same dull weight of risk. Behind him, Nia moved quietly, her bare feet whispering against the composite floor. She had washed, changed into one of his shirts that hung loose over her frame, sleeves rolled twice at the wrists. It made her look younger, but her eyes remained older than he could comprehend eyes that had seen how kindness could be turned into debt. You haven't slept, she said, voice low. Neither have you. I tried, she replied. The lights hum when the city shifts cycles. I thought it was thunder. No such thing here, Rowan said. The dome absorbs it. We get the light show, not the sound. She came closer, watching the haze outside. It's beautiful, she murmured. Even if it's fake. He glanced at her reflection in the glass. Beautiful and fake usually pay better. Her mouth curved faintly, but there was sadness behind it. Not for my kind. The words lingered. He turned away, closing the diagnostic panel. You can't stay locked up here forever, he said finally. They'll expand sweeps again. I can reroute your biosignature through the maintenance grid for a few days, maybe a week, but not longer. She looked at him sharply. Then what? Then we find a place they don't scan. That doesn't exist, she said. Not above the ducts. He paused, then met her gaze. Maybe not officially. The idea had been forming in the back of his mind for days one. He kept dismissing as foolish. But now, looking at her, he knew he couldn't keep pretending the city's order could be bent forever without breaking. There's a sector, he began. Lower Promenade, South Edge. Less enforcement presence. A mix of vendors and early shift crews. My friend Corin runs a coffee stall there. He owes me a favor. I helped him get his son off the registry after the riots. Nia frowned, uncertain. You'd take me there? It's crowded enough that they won't look twice if you keep your hood up. What would I do? Whatever you used to, he said simply. Sing, maybe. Something quiet. You think anyone wants to hear an Ellery sing now? I think they need to. She studied him for a long moment, trying to decide if he was joking. When she saw he wasn't, her posture softened. I don't even know if I still can. You'll find out, he said. He turned toward the cabinet, grabbed an old jacket, and offered it to her. Put this on. Keep your head down. Don't talk unless I do. She hesitated, but slipped it over her shoulders. The fabric nearly swallowed her. He keyed open the door. The corridor beyond smelled faintly of ozone and rain. They moved quickly, following the empty service hallway to the freight lift. As they descended, the world changed around them. The pristine glass and light of the upper decks gave way to corroded metal walkways and warm air heavy with steam. The promenade stretched before them like a living artery, vendors shouting, engines hissing, a scent of oil and fruit syrup mixing in the damp air. Nia's eyes widened. I haven't seen this many people in months. Keep your hood up, he reminded her, leading her through the crowd. They reached a small stall wedged between two ventilation columns. A flickering sign above read Throwing Coffee Stall 9. Behind the counter, a broad-shouldered man with cybernetic eyes polished a cup without looking up. Rowan Ives, he said, voice deep and amused. Didn't think you were still breathing this deck's air. I keep bad habits, Rowan said. Corin, I need a favor. Corin's gaze flicked toward Nia, lingering on her posture, her too perfect stillness. Friend of yours? You could say that. Corin raised a brow. Unregistered? Rowan didn't answer, which was answer enough. Corin sighed. You're out of your mind. Probably, Rowan said. I need her to stay low. Maybe perform. Something to blend her in. Perform? Corin repeated. Here? Rowan nodded toward the small open square beside the stall, where workers sat on overturned crates sipping their morning brew. She won't draw trouble if she doesn't draw attention. Corin rubbed his chin. You always had strange ways of paying debts, Ives. He turned to Nia. You sing? Nia hesitated. I used to. Then try, Corin said, jerking his chin toward the square. Nia looked at Rowan, panic flickering in her eyes. He gave a small nod. You'll be fine. She swallowed hard and stepped forward, pulling the hood back slightly. The air around them buzzed with mechanical hums, the clatter of cups, the distant chatter of commerce. She stood still for a long moment, then took a breath and began to sing. The first note was thin, almost lost beneath the noise. The second carried further. Her voice was unlike anything the human crowd had heard, soft, shimmering, layered with faint harmonic undertones that vibrated against the metal around them. One by one, Conversation stilled. A maintenance worker looked up from his drink. A vendor froze mid-call. Even the background hum seemed to slow. By the third verse, the space was quiet except for her song. It wasn't perfect. Her voice trembled, cracked slightly near the end. But it was alive. When she stopped, silence held for a heartbeat. Then someone clapped. Then another. A few tossed small credit chips into a tin bowl by her feet. Nia blinked in disbelief, lips parted. Rowan watched from the edge of the stall, a strange pressure building in his chest. Corin leaned close. You always did collect trouble. Sometimes trouble sings, Rowan said quietly. Nia turned toward him, eyes shining with something between relief and wonder. For the first time since she'd appeared in his kitchen, she didn't look like she was running. She looked like she belonged. But somewhere above, far above this level, the city's surveillance net captured the faint echo of her melody, the unregistered frequency of an Ellery voice, and flagged it for review. And in an office of mirrored glass, Inspector Vale looked up from his screen and whispered, "Found you." The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. Irispen's dome glistened like a bruise in the clouds, reflecting fractured light into every glass corridor. Rowan stood at his counter, sleeves rolled, watching steam rise from a pot of Draxon mushrooms. The air smelled warm, earthy a scent that felt foreign in a city built from steel and antiseptic. Behind him, Nia moved quietly through the apartment, folding the laundry she insisted on doing. Her movements were smoother now, her strength returning. When she hummed under her breath, it was the same tune she'd sung at the market, softer this time, private. You'll have the neighbors thinking I'm running an opera house, Rowan said, half to himself. They should be so lucky, she murmured without looking up. He glanced over, catching the faintest smile curving her lips. She'd changed again confidence where fear had been. It unnerved him how easily she was beginning to belong here. The alarm on his wristband vibrated once. System alert. Random inspection sweep scheduled. Sector 742C, mid-cycle. His stomach tightened. They're scanning again, he said. Nia froze mid-fold. When? 2 hours. She set the shirt down. You can erase the traces again. Not this time, he replied. They're cross-linking tenant logs. If they find a heat discrepancy, I can't fake it twice. Then I'll go, she said immediately. Hide in the ducts. You'll be safe. You wouldn't last the night, he said. You'd freeze. You can't keep protecting me, she whispered. He met her eyes. I can try. A sharp knock on the door broke the silence. Rowan's pulse jumped. He signaled for her to stay back and opened the door halfway. Mara Telm stood there, hair damp from the mist, tool case slung over one shoulder. Her voice was careful, too careful. Hey, Rowan, got a sec? Mara, he said evenly. What's wrong? Nothing yet. But I thought you should know maintenance flagged a humidity spike in your section last night. It's probably nothing, but if they run a secondary scan, you'll want your readings clean. Her eyes flicked past him, briefly, like she sensed something. Rowan blocked her view without thinking. I appreciate the warning. You look tense, she said. Everything okay? Too much coffee. She adjusted her grip on the case. You ever going to tell me what you're really up to up here? Auditing cargo manifests, same as always. Sure, she said, unconvinced. Well, if you need a recalibrator, I've got spares. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. The registry sent someone new. Inspector Vale. Word is, he's not like the others. Doesn't wait for permission to act. Rowan's pulse steadied into something colder. Thanks for the warning. Just be careful, Rowan, Mara said softly. The city doesn't forgive deviations. He nodded once, and she left. When the door closed, Nia stepped out from the alcove, pale. She knows. She suspects, Rowan corrected. That's not the same. It will be soon. He stared at the closed door for a long time, then turned to her. Pack what you can carry. You're running again? She asked. I'm adapting. She hesitated. And Mara? If she wanted to turn us in, she already would have. He opened the cabinet, pulling out a small satchel emergency rations, med kit, ID drives. We'll use the lower ducts. They're shielded from mid-range scans. I can spoof our heat signatures long enough to relocate. To where? Corin might know somewhere off the grid. Nia caught his arm. You can't keep doing this, Rowan. You'll lose everything. Everything's already gone, he said. I just hadn't noticed. For a moment, neither moved. The city hummed outside, indifferent, a low mechanical heartbeat that drowned out their fear. I'll go get my things, she said quietly. When she turned, he stopped her. Nia. She faced him again. When you sang at the market, he said, you made them stop. You made a city of machines listen. That's something they can't program. Her throat tightened. You think that matters? I think it's why they'll keep hunting you, he said. And why I won't stop helping you. The knock came again, softer this time. Nia stiffened. Mara? No, he said, voice low. The door screen flickered to life before he could disable it. Registry Maintenance Division. Access request. Sector 742C. His blood ran cold. They're early. Nia's breathing quickened. I'll hide. Balcony cabinet, he said. It's insulated. She didn't argue. She slipped inside the narrow space, pulling the panel shut behind her just as Rowan keyed the door open. Two figures stood in the hall, one human, one android. The human smiled, polite but empty. Good afternoon. Inspector Vale. Routine recalibration and verification. His tone made it sound anything but routine. Of course, Rowan said evenly. Come in. The android scanned the walls with slow precision, sensors pulsing amber. Vale watched Rowan, eyes sharp, reading posture, breath, heartbeat. You've been with Registry how long now? 7 years, Rowan said. Auditing manifests, low level. Clean record, Vale said, almost admiring. Unusual for someone who used to run med-evac. Rowan's jaw tightened. You've read my file. I read everything, Vale said lightly. The android's sensor paused near the balcony. Rowan's chest tightened. Temperature irregularity, the machine intoned. Vale stepped closer. Outside your perimeter, Mr. Ives. Any reason for that? Rowan's voice stayed calm. Dome condensation's been high. I've been manually regulating to prevent mold. Vale tilted his head. Manual override? Not standard. Old habit, Rowan said. I don't trust automation. Vale smiled faintly. Understandable. He tapped his wrist unit. The sensor blinked green. Seems stable enough. He turned toward the door. Enjoy your day, Mr. Ives. The moment the door shut, Rowan waited 10 long seconds before moving. Then he crossed the room and opened the cabinet. Nia stumbled out, shivering violently. They knew, she whispered, breath fogging in the cold air. They suspected, he said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. And you? I lied better. Her hands clutched the fabric. They'll come back, and we won't be here. You'll lose everything, she said again, voice breaking. Maybe, he said quietly, but at least it'll be my choice. Her eyes glistened, and something in her face softened into both fear and gratitude. Outside, the city lights shifted toward night mode, the dome glowing blue like a distant ocean. In that sterile light, he saw what he'd truly done, not just saved a life, but declared war on a system that didn't value one. He reached for his wristband, erased his audit files, and locked the console. Pack fast, he said. Tonight we stop hiding. The lower ducts of Irisman were never meant for people. They were meant for airflow, for machines to crawl and clean and whisper data through veins of metal and heat. But now, two human shapes moved through them like ghosts. Rowan led the way, flashlight beam cutting through clouds of condensation. The noise of the city above, drone hums, traffic currents, was muffled here, as if the world had forgotten them. Behind him, Nia followed silently, her breathing shallow but steady. Every few meters, her glowing implants flickered faintly through the dark, painting her in brief pulses of soft light. "Keep those dim," Rowan murmured. "They'll pick up thermal leaks on the upper grid." "I'm trying," she whispered. "It hurts when I suppress them too long." He glanced back, saw the strain in her face, the fine tremor in her jaw. "We're almost there. You've been saying that for an hour." "Then I'm consistent." She tried to smile, but stumbled on a loose pipe. He caught her wrist before she could fall, pulling her against him. The moment froze his breath close enough to feel her pulse fast beneath his fingers. For a second neither spoke, and she gently pulled away. "Sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," he said. "I'm the one who should be sorry for bringing you here." "You didn't bring me," she said quietly. "I followed." He wanted to answer, but the sound of boots clanging faintly above them silenced everything. "Enforcement patrol." He motioned for her to stop. The flashlight clicked off. In the near dark, her hand found his sleeve and held tight. Through the ducts came the muffled thud of footsteps, voices filtered through layers of metal. "Signal. Moved from Sector 742. Still faint residual heat. Cross-check manual routes." "Vale." Rowan recognized the voice calm, deliberate. The man didn't trust his machines. "We have to move," he whispered. They crawled deeper into the maze, heat building with every meter. Sweat slicked Rowan's palms, his shirt clinging to his back. The air smelled like rust and ozone. After a long stretch, they dropped through a vent grate into a narrow maintenance tunnel, lit by dying orange strips. "This leads to Corin's storage level," Rowan said. "He'll cover us if we reach him before dawn." Nia's voice was faint. "And if we don't?" "Then we find another tunnel and keep crawling." They moved again, slower now. The tunnel curved sharply, opening into a long service corridor filled with old cables and dust. Faint water dripped from above. Nia's implants flared once, then steadied, light dancing across the wet floor. "They're coming," she said. "I can feel the scanners like pressure." Rowan reached into his bag, pulling out 2 heat scramblers, sticking them to the wall. They hissed to life, masking thermal readings. "This'll buy us a few minutes." She crouched beside him. "You've done this before. Evac drills, war zones, disaster corridors. Different cities, same fear. And you keep doing it. Someone has to." She looked at him then, her expression soft but fierce. "You could have turned me in. You still could." "Not anymore." The words left him before he could stop them. "That choice is gone." They stared at each other in the flickering light. The sound of dripping water filled the silence between heartbeats. Then, softly, she reached out, her hand brushing the edge of his wrist. "You always talk like the world's ending," she said. "Maybe because it is. Then we should stop talking." She leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't the desperate kind. Theirs was quiet, trembling, a taste of fear and warmth in equal measure. Her skin was cool against his, faintly electric where her implants brushed his collarbone. For that small, impossible moment, the city didn't exist. Only them. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, "Now we run." They sprinted down the corridor as the scanners roared back to life behind them, filling the ducts with piercing blue light. Rowan keyed a security panel, overriding locks until the metal door hissed open into a wider chamber. Ahead, a faint glow flickered old signage, letters half broken. Hydro-core access. We're close, he said. Nia stumbled once, catching herself. Her breathing came in sharp bursts. Rowan your wristband. He looked down. The band's indicator flashed red trace alert. Vale had tagged his ID. Damn it, he muttered, ripping it off and throwing it into the water channel. It sparked, hissed, and died. Now they can't track us by code. But they'll know you erased it. Let them. From behind, a faint metallic echo grew louder, the measured rhythm of boots again. Vale's voice floated through the conducts. Mr. Ives, you're making this unnecessarily dramatic. Rowan cursed under his breath. Keep moving. They pushed through the hydro access into a descending stairwell that smelled of algae and coolant. Water dripped from pipes overhead. He could almost taste the recycled oxygen. At the bottom, a heavy maintenance hatch waited. He keyed in an override sequence from memory, but the pad blinked red, locked from above. Corin must have sealed it, Rowan said. Then knock louder, Nia said, desperate. He slammed his palm against the pad again. Come on, come on. The lock clicked open. They shoved through into a wide maintenance bay filled with old machinery and dripping condensers. Corin stood at the far end, grease-streaked, eyes wide. What the hell, Ives? No time, Rowan barked. Seal the hatch behind us. Corin saw Nia and didn't ask questions. He hit the control. The metal door slammed down as a bright pulse of blue light flashed against it from the other side. Vale's voice echoed through the speaker. You're not saving her, Rowan. You're just delaying what's inevitable. Rowan stared at the sealed door, chest heaving, sweat and rain mixing on his skin. That's still saving, he muttered. Corin stepped closer. You've pissed off the wrong gods this time. I'm done worshipping them. Nia leaned against the wall, shaking, her glow dimming. We can't stay here. I know, Rowan said. He looked around, spotting an emergency service elevator, long disconnected from the main grid. That leads down to the forgotten sectors. Rafter 9. Corin frowned. Nobody goes there. It's dead. Then it's perfect, Rowan said. He moved toward the lift, pulling Nia with him. If Vale wants ghosts, we'll give him ghosts. As the elevator doors closed, the lights flickered, power groaning through old cables. Nia gripped his arm tightly. Above them, the echo of Vale's voice faded, replaced by silence and the hum of descent. The air grew colder, heavier, like sinking into the bones of the city. Rowan, she whispered, what if we don't make it? He looked at her, at the exhaustion, the fire, the fragile courage. Then at least we tried, he said. The lift shuddered to a stop. The doors opened into darkness, broken by a faint amber glow. The air was still, thick with dust and forgotten heat. They stepped out together. Somewhere above, Irisband continued its perfect, mechanical rhythm, unaware that two lives had slipped out of its order. Into something unmeasured and alive, not the elevator door sighed open into a place where even the city's heartbeat could no longer be heard. The air in Rafter 9 was damp, metallic, thick with the scent of machinery long abandoned. Broken conduits ran like veins along the ceiling. Water dripped in slow rhythm from the pipes. Rowan stepped out first, scanning the corridor with a handheld lamp. The beam caught fragments of faded signage. Hydro core, maint, access, authorized only, words no one had read in decades. Nia followed, holding the wall for balance. The light shimmered faintly off her skin, a ghost blue glow in the dark. It feels empty, she whispered. It is, he said. The lower sectors were sealed after the floods. Nobody's supposed to exist down here. Then it's home, she murmured. And he almost smiled. They moved carefully through the corridors until they reached a collapsed junction that opened into a cavernous hall. Stale air stirred as they entered, revealing a massive dome overhead, cracked glass panels, half-flooded machinery, the skeleton of a forgotten city beneath the real one. Pools of condensation rippled with each drip from the pipes above. A few ancient service lights flickered weakly to life as their motion sensors registered heat for the first time in years. "We can stay here," Rowan said. "At least for now." Nia nodded, exhaustion in her shoulders. "I used to dream of places like this," she whispered, "where the sky couldn't see you." Rowan found a half-intact maintenance bench, pried it open, and began salvaging parts for a power cell. "You rest," he said without looking at her. "I'll get heat running." She sat beside a fractured console, her hands tracing the smooth edge of a copper pipe. The silence around them was strange, alive. "When you worked as a medic," she said after a while, "did you ever lose anyone?" His hands paused. "Too many. How did you keep going?" "You don't," he said softly. "You just move until it hurts less." The power cell buzzed faintly to life, bathing the room in a gentle orange glow. Nia's eyes caught the light. For a heartbeat, she looked less like a fugitive and more like something elemental, born from the machinery itself. Rowan sat across from her. "You should eat," he said. She shook her head. "Later. You've done enough." He leaned back against the wall, exhaustion catching up with him. "Not yet," he said. "We still need to find a way to make you untraceable." "Maybe that's impossible," she said. "Maybe I'm meant to keep running. No one's meant to live like that." He reached into his pocket, pulling out the small calibration wand he'd used on her implants before. "Let me check something." She hesitated, but lifted her arm. The scanner glowed softly, casting a pulse across her veins. Numbers and frequencies flickered on the display, and then something new appeared. A locked data sequence nested inside her neural core, encrypted, pulsing faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. Rowan frowned. "What is that?" "I don't know," she said. "It's been there since the rollback. The doctor said it was just a safety code." "It's not," he said. "It's a registry signature, a full database, sealed inside you." She blinked in confusion. "You mean, you're not just on their list, Nia?" he interrupted quietly. "You are the list. Every name they erased, every identity they destroyed, it's all in you." For a long time, she didn't speak. The sound of dripping water filled the void. Then she whispered, "That's why they kept tracking me. I thought it was because of what I said, the songs, but it wasn't." She looked up, eyes bright with something between horror and wonder. "They need me because without me, they can't rebuild the system." Rowan's throat tightened. "Or they can't keep hiding what they did." He stood, pacing slowly. "If that data's still intact, we can extract it. Send it off-grid, broadcast it to every sector. Expose the rollback for what it was. And then what?" she asked. "They'll hunt you too." "They already are," he said. "We might as well give them a reason." She shook her head, standing now too. "You don't understand. If they find me, they'll take the data by force. They'll kill anyone near me, including you. Then we make sure they don't find you." She stepped closer, voice trembling. "You should leave, Rowan. Not happening. You don't even know me. I don't need to." His voice softened. "I know what it's like to be erased." Her hand rose, brushing his sleeve, tentative, almost reverent. "You shouldn't throw your life away for someone broken." He looked at her, eyes steady. "You're not broken. You're evidence that this city once cared enough to build something beautiful." The faint hum of power wrapped around them died above. A distant echo rumbled. Machinery stirring, scanners awakening. They both looked up. "They're searching," she said. "They'll find the elevator trail." Rowan nodded. "Then we'll move again, deeper into the core. They won't follow past the flood sectors. And if they do, then I'll stop them. You can't fight them all. No, he said quietly, but I can buy time. She stared at him for a long heartbeat, then stepped forward and rested her forehead against his chest. You could have been anything in this city, she whispered. Why choose this? He touched her hair lightly. Because sometimes saving one person is the only way left to save yourself. When she looked up, her expression had changed. No longer fear, but resolve. Then we do it together. He nodded. Together. Hours later, the faint hum of the city resumed above them, oblivious to what had shifted beneath its foundations. In a forgotten chamber of metal and dust, a human and an alien girl began to rewrite the lie of a perfect world. Nia placed her palm against the wall, the soft pulse of her implant merging with the broken conduits until the light spread like veins through the dark. The machine stirred, old systems waking. Rowan watched the glow rise around them, his reflection caught in the amber light, and felt something unfamiliar bloom behind his ribs. Not hope exactly, but something close enough to hurt. He glanced at her, and she met his gaze. What now? She asked. Now, he said, we breathe. Above them, Inspector Vale stood at the sealed hatch they had vanished through, watching his scanners blink blank. The heat trail had vanished completely. He tapped his cum and whispered, They're not lost. They're alive. But even as he said it, a quiet thought flickered across his mind. Maybe, somewhere below, the city had finally remembered how to